This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, saving your day from boredom with the best podcasting entertainment.
Hello and welcome to Superfans. This is our weekly Chicago podcast where we talk all things Chicago sports, whether it's Bulls, Bears, Blackhawks, Cubs, or Sox. Not the Windy Shitty Bulls, because I got called out for that one last time. But it's a great podcast. I'm joined today by Ricky Widmer.
What's up, guys?
And Sean Anderson.
Hello there.
And today we've got three great topics for you guys. First thing off, we'll start off with our patron, Patrick, and we're going to be talking about what does Matt Nagy need to change for next season. After that, we'll be talking a little bit of Zach LaVine All-Star Game coming up. What are the odds? Should he be? Shouldn't he be? And then we're going to wrap things up with the question of the enigma, really, of what to do with Denzel Valentine, because Jim Boylan just seems to hate him. But I want to start things off by welcoming in Patrick, our patron. If you guys want to be like Patrick, you can go ahead and check us out at patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. And at that $10 tier, you get to come on and have an entire episode with us where we shoot the shit and take your topic and go from there. So, Patrick, I want to throw it to you right off the bat. This has been an interesting start to the offseason. We've switched out some coaches. We've moved on from guys. What does Matt Nagy need to do at this point with the Chicago Bears team?
So my big thing with Matt Nagy is he just needs to find some kind of identity on offense. If he's going to insist on, I know he's changed his offensive coaches, but if he's going to insist on, this offense is still mine, I still call the plays, he needs to figure out what he actually wants to do on offense, and he has to figure out how he can integrate the players that he has, not the players that he wants, but not the players that he should have, but the players that he has right now, and integrate that into a system that can either benefit Mitch Trubisky, if you're going to keep him at quarterback, or benefit the other skill players that he has right now. Because from this past year, every game we've seen was just trying to institute his offense with a team that just didn't fit. You know, we don't have, after coming from Kansas City, we don't have a Travis Kelce on this team. We don't have a Tyreek Hill on this team. We don't have those big play guys. And our quarterback is not the type of guy he had in Kansas City. So he needs to figure out how he can utilize his system, either getting guys that either fit his system, or he has to completely readjust his system to make it fit the team that he has, because he did it kind of half-assed this whole offseason or this whole season, and he had the third worst offense in the league. So he's got to change that for this season.
Yeah, I completely agree. You know, it's just square peg round hole kind of a situation with his style and our personnel. Ricky, do you think that the change is going to come from with him, or do you think it'll be the contributions from the new faces that we're going to see next season?
I mean, the thing that I look at is it'll be interesting to see what Bill Lazor and DiFilippo bring to this team, because did I say Lazor's name?
No, I'm
okay.
I'm shaking my head at the name.
Sean's already got the sass.
It's one of those things where it's with me, I focused on DiFilippo because one of his last teams before the Jaguars was the Minnesota Vikings, and I know he's taking a different role with the Bears than what he had with Minnesota, because Zimmer's not an offensive coach. As the OC, it was basically his job to run the offense and work with Kirk Cousins, and he's just going to be a quarterback coach with the Bears. But I kind of feel like this is, hey, Matt Nagy can then call his plays, call his offense, and let Lazor and DiFilippo work with Mitch Trubisky? Is that the plan? Because we have Lazor, who's worked with guys like Andy Dalton. We've got DiFilippo, who's worked with many quarterbacks, the recent ones being Gardner Minshew, Nick Foles, and then Kirk Cousins. The other thing that I thought of, and I'm not throwing this out that it's going to happen, but you got to temper the flames of, you bring in Bill Lazor to be your OC. Do you make a run at Andy Dalton in the free agency thing? That's besides the point.
We'll dissect that later, maybe.
I think both of these moves are, hey, what's going to help bring the most and get the most out of Trubisky?
Yeah, I think that, with all these fucking hires, it's just so uninspiring to see John DiFilippo be treaded back in. And, he was a guy that was interviewed the same time as Nagy was. He was one of the guys that I was excited for, because I thought he could bring something very intriguing to this team because I thought he was a very interesting play designer. I thought he had a good mind for play calling. That was proven wrong by what he did in Minnesota and later in Jacksonville. And the talk that he is this, quarterback guru, I truly do not understand. He's been a quarterback coach for nearly 10 years. His highest quarterback rating was 101 from Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz the next year when he didn't have DeFilippo still got better with a quarterback rating, and that was still a year that Carson Wentz was considered to be an MVP.
Yeah.
And he did end up getting injured. But the only consistent success he had was having Wentz for 2 years. Wentz went from a 77 to 101. That was the biggest growth you could see. But outside of that, guys weren't having career years under John DeFilippo. Guys were, he didn't have a lot of consistency in his quarterbacks, which is something I will give him a little bit of credit for. He had a new quarterback every single year outside of Carson Wentz, and even in that Carson Wentz year, he still had to deal with Nick Foles. However, let's talk about the guys that he did have success with: Carson Palmer, Carson Wentz, and Nick Foles. 2 of those guys were first overall picks.
I thought you were going to say 2 of those guys are named Carson. I was like, okay, where are we going with this one?
No, but the 2 Carsons were first overall pick, and the other guy was Nick Foles, who proven to already have success before, having a 27 and 2 touchdown interception ratio in 2013 with the Eagles. That was, weirdly enough, under Bill Lazor and also under Chip Kelly. So I don't think that these guys are truly going to unlock Mitchell Trubisky. I don't think this is going to change anything. I think these are faces that are somewhat in the Andy Reid tree. I can't really say that Bill Lazor, I think it is Lazor. Bill Lazor, he's not really in that Andy Reid tree. Never coached.
No, he's in
it.
more the Holmgren tree.
And he had a run in with Philadelphia, but it was already after Reid left. He came in 2013.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he wasn't truly a Reid guy. So I really can't say that, he's just retrading or Reid hires. But, John DeFilippo doesn't come too far from that tree either. John DeFilippo, did work with the Doug Peterson group, at least, and that's connected to the Reid tree there. So I just feel like, all of these guys, they know Andy Reid, and that's where Matt Nagy's going to stay. He's not going to do anything original. He's not going to go out and get someone who's up and coming. He's not going to go up and get somebody that, could possibly relate to Mitch Trubisky more. He's going to go out and just get old retreads, guys that have been in the NFL since 2003, and guys that, haven't really truly risen up the ranks, and when they have, they've been unimpressive. When John DeFilippo's been an offensive coordinator, his offense has been uninspired. When Bill Lazor has, risen the ranks, his offense has been uninspired. And Matt Nagy, as he's risen up in the ranks, his offenses have been uninspired. I don't think this is going to unlock anything. None of these guys bring something truly are not going to quench the thirst of what this Bears offense need, and that is a smart running game. And that's really then going to be relied on what Castro can do, their new offensive coordinator. He's supposedly this great run designer. It's all going to be on his shoulders. And I think in the end of the day, we're going to see all 4 of those guys fired at the end of the year, because I think if this offense doesn't work out, I think Matt Nagy's going to be released. I don't think that Ryan Pace is going to be the GM of this team. I think we're going to see a new regime come into Chicago if this team can't win. So truly, it's not on any of those guys that are coming in. Those are the changes Matt Nagy needed, but what the changes are going to be needed in is Matt Nagy to become a better play designer, Matt Nagy going to be a better play caller, or Matt Nagy giving up his play calling duties to give him to Bill Lazor. That's what's going to Bill Lazor. I want to say Lazor. Lazor's cooler. Bill Lazor. That's going to be what needs to be happening. I mean, they need to play to Mitch Trubisky's strengths, because he will be their starting quarterback. And maybe they bring in Andy Dalton. Maybe they bring in another a quarterback like that. But I do think it's unlikely, because you have to trade for those guys, and they have high cap salaries. I think that again, when we talked about this, I think it's going to be a Mitch Trubisky, Case Keenum duo, and I think we're going to see a quarterback drafted, and those are the guys that you're looking at. And I don't think that this is going to be an offense that changed drastically. Maybe they become the 20th best offense in the league.
Be a step up.
But I don't think this is going to be a team and an offense that can truly be changed.
So Patrick, with hearing the litany of people who could potentially influence Matt Nagy, do you think any of those guys stands out that they're actually going to get, whether it's their way, or you'll see, a wrinkle in the offense from their impression, from their side? Or do you think that this is still Matt Nagy's got the picture in his head of what he wants to do, and these might not necessarily be the guys who are going to change the way we play?
I don't think they're going to necessarily change the way they play, because I think this is still Matt Nagy's team, and this is still like his vision of what the offense looks like, and it might be more of schematic changes.
Okay.
But what I really hope is that these coaches we'll like talk to Nagy and we'll sit down with him like, hey, like, so this is what you've ran your system wise. These are the players you have. This has worked. A lot of this has not worked. And this offense is built for this kind of quarterback. Maybe Mitch is that. Maybe he's not that. But I think it's time that you actually have to like be honest with yourself and say like, are you going to keep instituting this offense and hoping that Trubisky learns it and gets better at stuff, because you kind of hope that this season and you went 8-8 with one of the worst offenses in the league. So I'm hoping that these coaches are able to like talk to Nagy and be honest with them and convince them like, okay, this is what happened. This is how your offense went. You were kind of throwing these guys into a system that they maybe didn't fit and maybe don't understand. And I know that you really trust this system, but you are not a coordinator. You are the head coach of this team. Your job is to win football games. Your job is not to prove that you're an offensive mastermind, even though that's what you were hyped into. Your job is to win games. And if that means putting together an offense that maybe doesn't fit your grand picture, like you have to be honest with yourself and go, okay, maybe I should do this. Or if I really trust in my system, maybe I need to go get a player to do that. Or maybe I need to get a new quarterback to do that. I know you guys have talked about if Mitch Trubisky will be quarterback next season, but those coaches have to be honest with Nagy and say, if you want to do this, you have to either go this way or you have to go this way, because you split down the middle like you did last season. We're going to be screwed and we're all going to be fired at the end of the year.
I like that you say that, because it is the whole, like, you didn't change anything, so you played it safe, and what do you get for that? It's a lose-lose situation. So I am kind of curious. I know it's impossible to talk Nagy without talking Mitch, so I'm glad you brought that up, and how stylistically they can look to better work with Mitch and kind of enable him to be a better quarterback in the NFL. Ricky, is there anything that you kind of see about what Nagy could, like the biggest differences he can make around his offensive schemes to work better with Mitch, who is, I think he had his most success as a semi-mobile quarterback rolling out of the pocket. Might have been part of the fact that we had a horrible offensive line last year.
When they moved the pocket,
forced our hand.
He was much better.
But yeah, so like with that in mind, do you see how Nagy could evolve his offense to better fit this? Or
so for me, and I want to just really quickly go back to the numbers and double check this.
Sure.
When you had his first year, and that's Matt Nagy, you had Jordan Howard had 250 attempts, Tariq Cohen had 99 attempts, and then, of course, Mitch had technically 68. But out of the running backs, 250 and 99, almost 350 attempts from your running backs. This year, you had almost the same number for Montgomery, but Tariq Cohen was way less. He was about 30 carries,
which is
less than what it is. And the thing that I felt like is, and I had to look at the numbers because I didn't even feel like Montgomery got 242 carries, because there were, like, in some games it would be like, why are we not trusting the run more? I know the big microscope was that Charger game where it's like, why didn't you like run the ball?
Yeah.
Like basically you're icing the game at that point to get the field goal range. And we had that whole discussion, but it was like, I felt like there were games where, and I don't know if it's because Montgomery was a rookie that Nagy didn't trust him, but I felt like there were games where it's like, lean on the run game some more. Let's get Montgomery some touches in any way, running the ball or even out of the backfield.
Because that was one of the biggest knocks on KC as well, was their unbalanced offense, and part of that was lack of a healthy running back. But again, he learned from Andy Reid. Andy Reid leans so heavily on utilizing his just throwing the ball over a balanced attack, and even if it is short screen passes, he feels like that's equivalent to a run.
Even then, that's what he did do very well, was that he would at least use his backs out in the backfield, and he'd use them out in the flats. I mean, Brian Westbrook eating up and running flat passes out of the back the backfield. I mean, he was wheel routes, like he was a dynamite X factor there, and obviously Brian Westbrook's a Hall of Famer, so you can't really just be like, oh, David Montgomery used to be Brian Westbrook. But I do think that, it's not really the run numbers that were affected. It was just really, I don't think they used the run enough to set up the pass. And it was something that he, even though the run numbers might still be there, Montgomery wasn't used enough, and he wasn't used enough in the correct situations. It felt that, Matt Nagy would consistently run on first down and then go pass. It was very predictable on what he was doing. The one unpredictable time that I think people kind of were surprised at what he did was coming second half out of the Vikings game, the second one, where they just ran the ball every single time down the field and scored a touchdown with David Montgomery. I think it was like 13 plays, 13 rushes for like 78 yards or something like that. I don't think that Matt Nagy has that type of play calling in him to just be a guy that is unpredictable. A guy that, he might be like, we have this crazy trick play, but it's so fucking going left and right that the play gets eaten up before it even becomes a trick. Yeah. It's just bad.
Or double handoff flea flickers,
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that Matt Nagy has consistently used his run game in the way that it becomes effective. I don't think he has abandoned the run game. He has at times, but I don't think he's abandoned it in the times that Montgomery's not getting carries like Howard was, but also I don't think he was fully using Howard as well. So I overall, I think what Matt Nagy needs to do more is run the ball, one, because it's going to take less pressure off of your offensive line. That was poor. Hopefully that does get upgraded. And again, we're just going to get into the same argument that, is it Matt Nagy's fault he doesn't have good personnel, and that's on Ryan Pace, but then Ryan Pace also drafted Mitch Trubisky, and is Mitch Trubisky bad because of Matt Nagy and all that shit?
Yeah.
But what should be overall done is Mitch Trubisky should be ran more. David Montgomery should be ran more, and they should be using those two players to set up their passes. And if you need to run the ball on 3 straight plays, do it. If you need to run twice and then throw once, do it. But I don't think we saw enough of those combinations where in those 3 downs that you do have to get a first down, that they kept getting behind the sticks. Well, instead of getting behind the sticks, run the fucking ball on first down. It's really hard to lose yards on first down when you have, 8 blockers in front of you. Like, you should be able to get at least 2 yards. You should at least be able to get 2nd and 8. And then on 2nd and 8, run a pass over the middle. Because I don't think I've ever seen a pass over the middle in a Matt Nagy offense. Run a fucking slant pass. Like, can we get some of those? Like, I feel like his offense, from what I've seen, and then maybe it's the lack of a tight end, and then we're just going back to Ryan Pace, and maybe the tight end suck because of Mitch Trubisky, and maybe he's, Matt Nagy doesn't know how to use tight ends.
See what you're doing here.
But I do think that we haven't seen enough of the field being used and enough of the run being used in crucial timing, and I think that's where we're missing out. We miss out a lot, and I think that's where this team does. It's a very much you're attacking on the outside of the hash marks when you are passing. You're attacking near the sideline and up and down, vertically, and then you're attacking out on the outside again, outside of the hash marks in screens. I don't feel like they use the middle of the field properly enough, and when they do, they're just running the ball. So you could just keep linebackers over there, and you're just going to be able to blitz in. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a play action slant over the middle. I mean, you should be able to run double slants over the middle, draw in play action, and then you have one linebacker that typically bites in, and then when that linebacker blitz in, you just attack the pass on that side.
Mitch Trubisky thrown in traffic is being protected. Yeah, and that's what we're seeing.
I don't think the offense is being fully unlocked, and again, we're just going back to, well, maybe that's just because of Mitch Trubisky. Maybe Mitch Trubisky doesn't know the offense well enough, and that's not Matt Nagy's fault. That's Ryan Pace's fault because he picked Mitch Trubisky. But overall, it's just I don't think that Matt Nagy has been fully using all of his tricks, and I don't think he's been calling a well-balanced game plan enough.
Well, it's a good thing that you're bringing up Ryan Pace so much because we got Ryan on the line. And Ryan, I want to throw it over to you and tell me what you think, Matt Nagy's impact and what overall he needs to implement this year for the Chicago Bears roster that you've built.
That's a good question, Sean. So looking at Matt this year, it was very much a very growing process for Matt as a coach. And one of the best things I've seen from him was his ability to communicate with his players and his ability to communicate with coaches about what his system is going to be. And I think the trust between him and Mitch really speaks volumes to really speaks volumes to the potential growth of this team. And one of the best parts about this entire team is that I run this team, not you three, so I don't know why you guys are asking me about this.
Oh my God. It's so scary how good it is.
Yes, it is.
When did you learn that you could do that, Ryan?
I literally just learned it, when you guys asked me to talk about Ryan Pace a bit, and I just kind of threw that out because his voice is very low and my voice is very low, so it's easier for me to just drop it a few octaves and then throw in classic Ryan Pace phrases like, we had conviction in who this guy was as a quarterback out of North Carolina.
It's just it's the cadence, the tone, like you've got it.
Oh my god!
I really wanted to throw in of like, you know what? I've been watching you guys for a long time, and to be honest, I'm really sick of Sean getting so mad at all of my coaching decisions. I'm mad at Ricky because he's the resident Vikings fan who's just here to shit on my decisions. And then we have Dave in there who's just provides all the extra ammunition. So I'm really sick that you guys keep pouncing on my decisions. And quite frankly, I'm not here for that.
It's golden. It's
It
perfect.
is fantastic.
He's not only a doctor in all of every field that he has studied in his well-versed travels, but he's also a doctor in voices and in humor. So thank you, Patrick. It was fantastic.
Oh my god.
It should be a good sport too. I think if anyone put me on the spot like that, I'd fucking freeze up.
I was scrambling to come up with something. I'm just like, why don't I just like end it by like making fun of
Home run.
fun of podcasters?
You should absolutely. I mean, we're from Chicago, so our family's consistently making fun of us.
Yes.
That's just the Chicago way. So if you're ever leaning back on something, just tease us. That's it's a sign that you show you love somebody. And again, I like Mitch Trubisky. I don't love him. That's why I don't make fun of him. I call him stupid because I think he's stupid. I think Matt Nagy is a bad coach. That's not me making fun of him. I think he's a bad coach. Seems like a nice guy. Seems like he's a very good leader. But I think he's a bad coach.
I will always be jealous of Ryan Pace's hair, though.
Yeah.
Man, that is amazing.
It's insane. Like his hair is so thick, but the one thing, like his hair is very good, but the hair doesn't fit the head. You know what I'm saying? Like the head seems like
look this up.
His hair seems like an inch too wide, and his head just seems a little bit thin. I don't know what it is, but like when it's a little bit longer,
Yeah, I
you know
can
what I'm
see
saying?
it.
Like his head needs to be a little bit wider, and then that'd be like perfect. He's got that weird thing where he's not ugly, but he's not attractive.
His hair is almost like a hat. It goes around the head.
Yeah.
Not on the head, around it.
But he does have good hair.
Yeah.
If you took that hair and put it on me, like I would have better hair.
That's true. That's true.
Like that picture, I think is a bad hair day. A bad hair day for Ryan Pace.
No, that's a good hair
Yeah,
day.
but in his book, it might be like, that was a bad hair day.
That's a good hair day.
It's a little wavy.
This is a bad hair day.
I'm not too
he's
far off.
pulling it off. He's not.
But that still looks
I think
good.
he's bringing up the rest of the GMs of Chicago because we know Gar Foreman's not doing anything.
No, he's not in the same category.
The ogre
I think
Garfield.
we could get your hair to look like his.
No, mine's too thin.
Is it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I've got a chance.
You know who?
I need to.
Dave has the best chance.
You know
of
who
that.
parts their hair like Ryan Pace? Brandon Swanson. That's what I noticed. You click through two of these pictures and Brandon parts it the same way.
Yeah, Ryan's got better hair though.
Yeah.
Anyways, back to Matt Nagy.
Do we have to?
No, we don't. Do we like any of these hires? Because I know I shit on the Bill Lazor thing, and that's real bad. That's
He's had some
hair day.
real rough ones. Who go through Google Images, by the way.
But
Aaron Leding said it really the best when he said that like that position as offensive coordinator for the Bears was just not going to be attractive because you're not calling plays and you have a bottom 5 quarterback in the league. So like you weren't going to bring in like an offensive mind because even if they wanted to bring in a hot young offensive mind, they would look at the Bears situation and go like, no, I'm going to wait for something better. I'm going to wait for an actual quarterback, and I'm going to wait for someone who trusts me to call the plays. So,
and that's
you couldn't really like have high expectations. Like we're going to go get the next hotshot coordinator because that job's just not attractive right now.
That's absolutely true. But I also then have the question too, because some people were saying that it was a big get for Matt Nagy to get DiFilippo because he had a lot of job openings, so that's a big get for him. So I agree with the Lazor thing, but then the DiFilippo thing, it might be a little bit going back because, yes, he does have a lot of tread on the tires, but people like him as a QB coach. So that's something that I do find a little bit – I agree with the coordinator part, but then the QB coach is a little bit iffy. I don't know what I'm missing on DiFilippo, but it seems like he is very well respected throughout the NFL. You know, so like –
I didn't like him when he was with the Vikings. I thought that our offense was not as good as it could have been. Although you look at the numbers, like Kirk Cousins had a great
I was gonna say
rating, but it was
did the quarterbacks under him not get better?
Yeah, the quarterback got better.
So that's his job.
Depending. Prime time, Kirk Cousins was not good last year.
Well, that's Kirk Cousins every year.
I don't know. This year he did win a playoff game.
I wouldn't give it to him. I wouldn't give that to
Dave
credit.
Filippo's not being asked to be offensive coordinator. He's just asked to
that's
be
the thing.
quarterback coach.
Spot
and
on.
also that Vikings offense did not run with Dalvin Cook very much. With Dave
No.
Filippo as
Well,
offensive
he was
coordinator, which
Dalvin
is
Cook.
shocking.
Dalvin Cook was injured that year.
And also, just last year, I mean, Kirk Cousins had a 99.7 quarterback rating. That was his fourth highest in his career. He had a 101.6 in 2015 and then 107.4 this year. So you take away Kirk Cousins and you actually give him a run game, he becomes a better quarterback, weirdly enough.
Yeah.
So I think the DiFilippo effect is just going to end up actually hurting Mitch Trubisky, and because I don't think DiFilippo is going to change Matt Nagy, and I don't think Bill Lazor is going to change Matt Nagy, and we're just going to have another team that's anemic when it comes to the run game, and that's just going to hurt Mitch Trubisky.
Do you think that's why? So what Pat was saying with the job not being an attractive job, is that a reason why you probably didn't then expect to get a guy like a Pat Shurmur, who,
I mean,
he's a guy
yeah,
that
yeah.
calls plays. That's what he, like when he was with Minnesota before he went to New York, he was calling plays. He was the guy that was coming up with our offense, and now he gets to do that in Denver.
We
or maybe
already
in Chicago.
hired our hot shot offensive coordinator
As
in
the
Matt
head
Nagy.
coach. Yep.
That's what you guys are like. I don't know if it's ignoring or just don't want to admit, but like we already got our hot name, our hot offensive coordinator from a great offensive team. Unfortunately, we're finding out that how much of that was Andy Reid, how much of that was the exceptional personnel that he had at his disposal, and how little of that is translating to, how much, give him lemons. Can he make lemonade? Like, the answer might not be yes. That's sadly what we're looking at.
Plus, will we be looking back at his first year as like, the strength of that schedule played into it as well. Because it was a weaker schedule.
It
than this
absolutely
year.
was a weaker schedule, but also we had some special moments that year.
No injuries. You had this crazy great defense. Like
The
it
amount of
wasn't just the
turnovers that we
schedule.
generated was insane, and we knew it was going to step back this year. I knew we weren't going to win, 13 games, but it was like, can we win 10? Yeah, I think 10 was reasonable, and I think we blew more than 2 games this year that we had a chance to win. So, again, that's the sign of a great run team is, can you win the close ones? Can you close out games? Can you make those last-minute stands? You do the little things nice. And we couldn't do that. And a lot of that comes back to Nagy. And I think that getting these guys is not the be-all, end-all solution. Sean, I tend to want to agree with you in this situation where these guys are placeholders at the moment. This is Nagy's final run. Let's see if he can do something here. Let's see if Mitch has anything here. This is the prove-it year for both of those guys. And I think their careers depend on it. Nagy will get another job somewhere else if he gets removed from Chicago as a offensive coordinator. I have no doubt in my mind. No, he absolutely will.
I think he'll
tires.
be going back to a quarterback coach at least right away. I don't think he's going to get an offensive coordinator job right away.
Maybe. I mean, that's 2 steps back. That's.
I mean, he truly never proved himself as an actual play caller. I mean, he got 4 games in Kansas City and then got blamed for not running the ball.
Actually,
and then he got hired.
Yeah.
That Kansas City game was the worst game I've seen all season. I was just like, are you kidding? Like, I think even like Julie DeCaro said it best. We're like, you've had this game circled all year, and this is the offense you run.
Yeah.
Like, this is literally what you do.
That hurts.
Like the first drive of the game, we're like driving, like, okay, we're picking it up. Mitch is running, and then they throw some trick play. They lose like 10 yards, and they have to punt it. Like, great.
Momentum killed.
Shout out to Julie DeCaro too. Thanks for listening to the score, Pat.
And then Pat Mahomes throws up his like 10 fingers, like, oh yeah, this is where you could have picked me. I'm like, fuck.
The fact that his number was 5 in college and then he just added 10 to it is so petty, and I love it. And I also hate it because I just wish he could have had 2 as his number because he would have been the second pick, or number 1 because he would have been our number 1 quarterback. Like, just give me something that is Bears related that I could actually take with. If Pat Mahomes was in a Bears uniform, I think we would honestly have 2 Super Bowls right now.
But here's the thing that sucks.
Maybe
on top
one.
of that is the
with
fact
that defense last year, with the
No,
two
that's what I'm
defenses,
saying. Maybe one.
I think they'd be Super Bowl champions this year. I think you'd have 2 championships in Chicago.
and we had to watch the 2 guys who got taken after him play in the playoffs this year.
Yeah.
The Ryan Pace Bowl.
Thank you, Ryan Pace, for not.
Is it the Ryan Pace Bowl or the Son of a Bitch Bowl?
Ooh.
I like the Ryan Pace Bowl better, but the Son of a Mitch Bowl is pretty decent.
Yeah.
Both of those are pretty catchy.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we pretty much hit everything under the sun on Matt Nagy's future year coming up, what he has to do, what these new what these new coaches have to put in place. They have to be honest with him. They have to be open in communication and perhaps take over a little bit of that responsibility back from Matt Nagy so he can focus on what he needs to. And hopefully Mitch Trubisky can start progressing into the quarterback we wanted him to be from the get-go. I want to thank Patrick for being an amazing guest in this segment. Thank you so much. And let's kick it into the next topic, which is the Bullsh.